Hi, I'm Melinda Welty. Sideshow Mom on some things. And we've got a new friend in our house, and so do some of you. This is the Dream Pie Studios pock-ah. He's a little tiny guy, or girl, if you have the girl. Um, Yours is a girl. And the lovely and talented Marlene Randall is going to make some knitting patterns for us to make tiny, tiny little clothes for them. So she's been hard at work. Her name's Woven Flame on some of the other services. This is Cece. She's very, very old and looks skinny as heck, but she's happy. She's one of those old skinny ladies that you see hobbling around when they're 105 and still running good. And this is Charity. And come here, baby. She wants to be warm. So Marlene has discovered that the best yarn for the projects that she's going to make is a single strand of embroidery floss. DMC floss that a lot of us have from our cross stitch days. There are other brands out there. I know there's a brand that they carry at Hobby Lobby that's got a different name. But it's fine, just whichever. It's cotton. So what we're going to do is show you how to pull a single strand from an entire skein of floss all at once without tangling any of it, so that you can knit with it. So I use these storage bags for years. I cross-stitched since I was about 19, and I'm not 19 anymore, so it's been a while. But DMC floss, or most of the other flosses for that matter, will come in a similar package. It's just a small skein, and it's got these two cardboard bands around it. The one thing you do not want to do is take those bands off. They're very useful and helpful. They're structured in such a way that there's one end that's loose. And then if you can't find that, then you just slide the band toward the center a little bit and kind of pull this apart a little to hunt for it. Thank you, Cece. You're such a good helper. It's usually towards the end of the band with the DMC logo on it, not the band with a number. So you find it. On this end, there's the cut, the end that's folded over the fold is the end you want to pull on. There's another end, of course. The other end is way down under the band. That's the end you want to leave alone. And slide your bands back to where they were. I also use for this these floss bobbins. They used to come in the Doris section containers, the boxes that you got that you could put all your neatly wound floss bobbins into, or other crafting supplies. You can also buy them in the cross-stitching area next to the yarns in both Hobby Lobby and Michael's, and whatever your Joann's, whatever your local crafting store is. But they're just these little cards. They usually have a place for a hole, pre-perforated, and some little notches at the other end to catch the ends. I use 2 of these for each skein of yarn that I'm gonna, skein of floss that I'm gonna pull thread from. You don't need to pull all of the strands free from each skein that you're gonna use. I would pull at least 2 free. Marlene said that the hat took 1 strand, And the little sweater that she has shown was a strand for the body, and then a strand. She started a new strand for each of the sleeves, just so that you wouldn't get to the end of it and it's really difficult to knit. So I'm going to take my two floss bobbins. I'm going to take my skein of floss, and we're going to hold loosely the far end, the end with the numbers, and take that end. We'll just give it a little gentle pull and get some started. And then we're gonna tuck one end in. It doesn't matter which way you wind or which way you tuck. And we're just gonna start winding it onto the floss bobbin. Just pull a couple times out and just wind the whole thing on. Doesn't matter how neatly, doesn't matter how unneatly, it's all going to be on the bobbin, because that will keep you from tangling up and having a bird's nest when you want nice yarn. It's a nice smooth cotton floss, so it's really good to do this method with. There are some other kinds of floss called flower thread that are a little more fluffy, have a little more tooth to a little less polish to them for making for embroidering flowers and such. See, I've got a little knot here, but see, if I just gently give it a little pull, and this is where the other cut end kind of came on me. Just undo the knot, but don't do anything else with it. That'd be nice to use for a yarn also. And extra special thank you to Marlene Randall, Woven Flame, for agreeing to make knitting patterns for these tinies. She's done knitting patterns for the other ball jointed dolls, the real Pookies and the Pookies and the Pookies in the past. And I've used those with great success for my real Pookie and my Hooju baby, which was the reason I started spinning yarn in the first place, was because I had these tiny dolls and wanted to make nice clothes for them. Crochet thread, even the now discontinued bamboo ones, are not very fine, even though you can get a nice drape with them. Look, see, here I am at the other end, and the parts just come off, and it's nice and neat and all wound. So the number 10 crochet thread that you could get, your normal crochet thread, is larger than this and doesn't have this nice drape that even when it's been washed and the sizing is out of it. The bamboo does a really nice job, but really for these tiny dolls, a single strand of this embroidery floss is 6 strands, or plies, as spinners would say. And you're going to separate it and twist it a little bit and just kind of pull them apart at the end, just so you can get a hold of them better. Very tiny. And even those are 2 plies, so it really looks like a good scale yarn. So you're going to grab one of those. I'm not securing this end with the notch because we're going to unwrap it again. I'm taking the other floss bobbin and I'm going to catch one of the strands in a notch that I haven't opened up. And, you know, I've just got a little bit on the back. And I'm going to let this fall in my lap. I'm going to put my hand over lightly. You don't want to grab this tight because it just slides nicely. Because they're polished, almost like a mercerized thread, but it's a long strand cotton is what it is. You just grasp it gently, just a little, you know, like you're holding something really precious like an egg or that you don't want to crush, and you just pull and let the bobbin fall, and it'll coil up around itself like this and not tangle. You start wrapping your single strand. I've caught the end in the back. It doesn't need to be worried about too much because it's in the notch. And then gently grab it. You don't even have to wrap your whole hand, but that helps to kind of keep it, and just pull and wrap and pull. You get the entertainment of watching my cat. And I'm going to have a single strand of dolly thread yarn. These are, I believe, how many yards long? Oh, I never remember how many yards long these are. It seems like it's 9 yards long or something. I started working on how to do this as soon as Marlene announced that this was the yarn she was using for the patterns, and so I asked in cross stitch, you cut lengths of from the skein off. You pull 2 lengths of it out and cut that, and then you separate your strands for using a cross stitch. So you've got something about 24 inches long. In this one, we want the full length of the skein uncut. See how it just coils up? Cross stitch was such a lovely thing. I did that when I first got out of high school, and was home bored because my dad didn't want me driving the car around during the day and getting in trouble. So I took a cross stitch to give myself something to do because we did not have cable. Did have a VCR, and I could ride my bike down to the video store in the small town I lived in. We didn't have a local movie theater or any place really for the teenagers to hang around. So I took up cross stitch. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have, a video game console. There were video game consoles. I'm not that old. I just didn't have one. And look, we're almost to the end. And, dinosaurs were roaming the streets, and we would feed them, and they would keep coming to our house because we would feed them. And look, there we are at the end. This is the other 5 strands neatly coiled, and the single that we've pulled out is wrapped around this. I'm just going to give a little bit more tension, and that single strand is going to come out of this captured end. Now we're going to just let this sit in our lap, and this is going to come and get wrapped back around the card. Just exactly the same way that we did the other side. To get the single strand, we're putting the other 5 plies back. And it goes just as quickly. If you get any resistance on that, you give this end another pull and get the rest of that single pulled out. It'll want to untwist a little, that's fine. And then you just drop this in your lap to do the rest of your winding. But keeping it tangle free, you're going to want to wind it back around the card. Because believe me, if this stuff tangles, you're not going to want to sit and spend hours entangling 9 yards of floss. It's cheap. It used to be like a quarter a skein. I think it's up to like 50 cents or something. Or maybe $1, I don't know. I haven't bought any in a while. Because at one time, I owned the entire palette of DMC floss. Some 1,000 or so colors. Just because you could. I would design cross-stitch pictures and stuff and take out my color card and decide what colors I wanted to use and stitch my design up. I could go right to my box of floss bags. The floss away bags were awesome. Some people use these bobbins, write the number of the color on it and keep them in your Dries box. And away you went. But these days we've got nice Ziploc snack bags. Ziploc brand or the generic brands at your store. They make little square ones, little rectangle ones, smaller than a sandwich bag. And those would serve just as well for keeping your flosses in as you build up a stash of dolly yarn skeins. And we're back at the other end again. And if I want to, and I will because this is one of the colors that I'll be using, I'll go ahead and take another strand and get it started. Just because I'm that way, I'm going to go so that I'm wrapping the same way. We'll start this end on this side and drop the first card and start pulling again. I've already done this. I have, they used to make some variegated flosses. This is a nice green that's going to blend right into my shirt, but separated out as a single strand. That'll make a nice, Marlene's using a pink in one of her photos, in some of her photos that she did. If you're careful about it, you can write the color number on the bobbin so that you know which color you're using of DMC. This was the first one I tried it with. I did not use the 2 bobbin method yet. I just pulled the whole skein out. It's a mess. Trust me. It's a mess. You can do it if you're very, very, very careful and work the twist down to the other, the coiled up bits down to the other end. But then you've got 3 or 4 strands of floss without their nice neat skein and bands and stuff. You can wind that back up if you wrap it around a long thing and twist it into a skein like we do with yarn, but oh, I'm doing it this way forever. So I hope that helps. And Marlene, thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time and the effort and the eyesight to create something that we'll be able to make for our lovely little dolls. Thank you guys. Have fun with this. Bye.